when I was on roads policing, I was pregnant with my first child. I was probably the first woman on traffic ever to be pregnant, and therefore they didn't have a clue what to do with me. There was no risk assessment as there is now, no light duties, and I was basically told, just look after yourself, don't do anything stupid. And of course I don't listen to things like that. I was an operational cop, and I just wanted to do my job. I was sent single crewed to the scene of a road traffic collision, which turned out to be a fatal on the A34 at Pear Tree. And when I arrived there, the offenders in the vehicle that caused the accident were still at the scene. They had been drinking, there were two men, and I, having liaised with the ambulance crew, I then arrested the driver, who started fighting me, and I was pregnant. And I'm thinking, I shouldn't be doing this. And then my chief inspector turned up, and he told me in no uncertain terms that I shouldn't be doing it. So from the next day, I was then on light duties, which again was nothing like this, nothing like they are nowadays. And my light duties consisted of sitting in an unmarked car on the motorway doing speed detection. So we had another motorway crew further up, and I was saying such and such a vehicle. And I always remember this chap came up to me when I was on the lay-by, and he said, "Have you broken down, love?" And I said, "No, I'm all right, I'm all right." And when he saw that I was a police officer, again, it was a bit of confrontation, and then I was doing policy work for the chief inspector. After at that time there was no part-time working, and therefore lots of women did not go back, and we'd just taken on a mortgage. My parents were willing to look after my daughter, so I went back to work.
No, again, I think I've always tried to be realistic in going for things that one I really want to go for, so I'm prepared to really put the work in and get them. And I've always tried to go for things that I think I would really enjoy and that I'd be able to add some sort of value to. You know, I've been lucky that all the things that I really wanted to do, I've had the opportunity to do. And, you know, I've been lucky enough to you know, achieve the rank of inspector, which I've really enjoyed. You know, I enjoy being a sergeant, and of course, you know, looking back when I was sort of in my 20s, that the fun time was being on shift as a PC and working, you know, as part of a big team.
And I managed to persuade my husband to let me come back to the organisation as a police staff member. So I came back and worked in control room. That would have been when my eldest was 7, so about a 7-year gap. And I've never left. I've done lots of different roles. And again, no, I haven't ever felt that I have been hindered because of my gender. There may well have been difficulties, perhaps, because perhaps a woman doesn't do that. But in terms of what I did, I had no problems. I was a communications operator, so I worked the radios and I worked the phones. And then about 8 years after that, I became a trainer. And I'm now a trainer. I train police officers and police staff. And sometimes you might come across the odd individual that perhaps isn't too happy about being instructed, by a woman and perhaps by a police staff member. But it is really unusual now. And I'm incredibly proud to have worked for Thames Valley Police and still to work for them. I think the opportunities are amazing, and the support I get, and I know it's cliche, but for me and my family, Thames Valley Police is like a family. There are so many great people, and we do so many great things, and I'm very proud of that.
When I joined, it was 1985, which was 10 years after the Equal Opportunities Act. So you'd sort of think that it might have permeated the police culture by then. But if I tell you that one of the questions on my interview was I joining to find a husband and have babies? It sort of suggests that it hadn't quite landed at the point that I arrived. So I guess it was just the fact that there was quite a lot of old-fashioned attitudes. If there was a warrant, they would say, "Have you got the WP," meaning the woman police officer, the same way they would say, "Have you got the nostrils," meaning a gun, and things like that. So there was still quite a lot of sexism in a very small percentage of people. I would say it's a small percentage of people, and that's got smaller and smaller and smaller. But then we reflect the society we're in, and actually I think probably we are a lot better than the general attitudes out in society, and it's got much better over the years. So I guess my tactic with dealing with that is just to sort of dimly not notice it, because then if you're not reacting, there's nothing for them to kick against. So you just do your job, you do it well, and that seemed to be the tactic that worked for me.